homestand. It seems like the pitching came out. They did what they're supposed to do. The offense did just enough. 7 in a row. And we're joined by our old friend, Chris Castellani of Barstool Sports. We're going to talk about this. And Carlos Correa, we're going to maybe see him play against the Houston Astros. We got a lot to discuss on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast that starts now.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram, and at Astros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always what do I have my glasses on? Oh, wait. What am I doing wearing a Detroit Tigers hat? I got the wrong hat on. Oh, my gosh. It's happening, guys. Let me just tell you something. The whole Detroit Tigers thing is infectious. Why? Because we got Chris Castellani on the show. What's up, my man? Give the fans, let them know where they can find you online.
Oh, you can find me on social media, on Twitter, at Castellani2014. There in the link in my bio, you can find a lot of different stuff that I'm working on through Barstool, co-hosting the Lights Camera a Barstool podcast, my own YouTube channel, and obviously my mainstay is the show that I'm doing currently twice a week. I'll Say This with Chris Castellani, which is every Monday and Friday. Just got done recording tomorrow's episode, which, given the way some events transpired over the weekend, is not necessarily a positive one. But it's been fun nonetheless. So you can find everything you want to find regarding my content there. Also will potentially be on Money Shots, which is the gambling podcast at Barstool every Monday. And that includes tomorrow as well with Megan and Kelly. Megan, actually a huge Houston Astros fan. So, a lot of stuff going on. Everything you want to find, you can find on my Twitter account right now.
All righty. And thank you guys for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? All you have to do is go search Locked On Astros, press that little red button. That's all it takes. And give us a like while you're at it. And on your way to work, on your way home to work, just listen to us on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check that out. And today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. So I know a lot of people were probably discounting the Astros once they got off to this bad start. They had this negative run differential. They're near the bottom in the division. As an outsider, Chris, what were your thoughts about the Houston Astros once they got off to this kind of horrific start?
Well, I mean, I think that when I watched them early in the year, and based on my predictions, I did feel like this was a team that would take not a massive, but a small step back. I mean, the amount of generational players they've put out and the amount of great teams they've had, since they really popped off in 2015 has been remarkable. So I didn't think that this would be a 95 to 100 win team, but I knew they'd be competitive. And yet I think that Houston is becoming like the Dodgers. And I think you could even say the Braves are kind of in this category now where they're just an assembly line of churning out talent. And I know obviously you got off to a bit of a rough start, but the way that the Astros develop pitching, I don't think that there's an organization in baseball that I can think of outside of probably the Guardians who do a better job of developing starters. I mean, when you look at what you guys have lost, true. I mean, Verlander obviously last year had Tommy John. You've lost Cole. You've lost Greinke, McCullers, Morton, and yet I look at the staff you guys have, and it just feels like clockwork now. No matter what, there's going to be a starter, every other day that's going to be able to give you 5-6 innings consistently. And so right now, I mean, once again, it looks like a team that's going to be making a run deep into the postseason. They have this still an incredible lineup, and that's actually, and you guys just went 7-0 on this homestand. That's actually what scares me the most is I don't think your offense has hit their stride yet. Like Tucker is not going to end the year with these kind of numbers. Brantley is not going to end the year with these kind of numbers. Altuve the same way. So, I mean, look, I'm very impressed by him, and I always have been with the amount of guys that they churn out and the way that they've built this thing really from the ground up. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, not just in the AL West, but probably all throughout the American League for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people kind of not necessarily jumping shit, but chicken littles. I think we are in this kind of golden era of Astros baseball where we get so spoiled by the winning when the winning doesn't occur, almost like it's automatic, almost like, well, you're going to wake up and you're going to put both feet on the floor. You're going to go to work kind of thing. It's like, it's just going to happen. And when you have several people struggling, like you said, with Justin Verlander coming back, like, good Lord, coming back looking like a Cy Young. And then 3 games ago, Jake Odorizzi said he talked to Alex Bregman. He wanted a hitter's perspective, and he talked to Justin Verlander. And if Justin Verlander isn't hired as the pitching coach when he retires, and because, everybody's like, Brent Strom, we lost Brent Strom. Like, wait, hold on. I don't know if you've heard. We've got Justin Verlander. He's kind of like pitching coach guru now.
Yeah.
And whatever he told Odorizzi's now, his last 2 starts has been stellar. And there was a lot of criticism being thrown at him, and there was a lot of like, should we trade him? And I'm guilty as charged. And all these people that are suddenly fanboys of Odorizzi, I promise you, because I went back and looked at receipts. I didn't call anybody out, but there's some people saying, "Oh, look at all his Odorizzi hate," and I'm like, dude, y'all were calling him out all last year, and this team has turned it around. One of the things I want to connect this to back to Detroit is we felt like we lost some of this when we lost AJ Hinch, because AJ Hinch is such a player's coach, such a psychological guy. Dusty Baker comes in and he's the player's coach. He was here to handle controversy. From that perspective, you look at guys like Framber, you look at guys like Luis Garcia. I mean, these young pitchers, we may not have had the most highly rated farm system in the last couple of years, but when we talk to pitchers that are in the farm system right now, they all say the same thing. It's this information, and it helps them, and they grow.
Mm-hmm. No, and obviously, really, what's changed with your season, to be honest with you, and what's kind of changed my expectations is Verlander. And there was a lot of discussion, even before the end of last year, in the middle of last year, of what if the Tigers bring back Verlander? And I love JV and first ballot Hall of Fame. He's also a 39-year-old coming off of Tommy John, who's pitched more innings than any other starter currently in Major League Baseball. I wrote a blog on Barstool, and the title of it was, "I'm convinced that Justin Verlander's a Terminator," because he looks like the same pitcher who won a Cy Young for you guys 3 years ago. Where he's going right now is like he's reaching that next level where he's going to pitch into his 40s. And you're right. I mean, there was that clip that was released in Toronto a few weeks ago where he was holding onto a baseball in the dugout and just, working on his slider, working on his pitches. Like he is just a pitching machine as a guy. And I think when you have all of a sudden that workhorse who comes back despite having some injury problems, it changes the way I feel about this team, where even if the lineup doesn't come along till late, you have a pitching staff night in and night out that's going to be capable of holding a team to 2-3 runs a night.
Yeah. And so, what Justin Verlander is doing is great. And what Aledmys Diaz did today was great too. He hit a grand slam for his mother, and that was something that's great. And while we're on this topic, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, whether you raised a major league kid or just somebody who strikes out every game in the little league. It doesn't matter what your kid is doing. It's just being a mother is a very respectful job, and something that it takes a lot of time, effort. And so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and you deserve all the best on this special day. So happy Mother's Day to my mom, to my stepmom, to everybody who's been part of my life. And I'm sure Brett and Chris, you have the same thing going there. So y'all can go and do this in a second. But before we do that, like, it was just weird how Aledmys Diaz was kind of did that. And then Chas McCormick, the game before, said, you know what? I bet I'm going to hit a home run for this kid. And he did. So let's talk about Bet Online.
Yeah, betonline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting, stats, and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this weekend's run. This last weekend, I don't know. Like, did you see the 80-1 winner? Like, come from 13th place and go all the way to the front and win. That was amazing. So head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Heck, F1. I don't know if y'all watched it today. As I was watching the Astros on one device, I had F1 on another and watching Max Verstappen win another race and take another pole. So BetOnline is where the game starts. So check them out today.
All righty. And go ahead and check out the Locked On Now podcast. They do a great job of just putting a little 30 to 45 seconds of all the teams across baseball. Just did their team win? Did their team lose? What happened in that game? So it's just a great way of keeping up with what's going on around this great sport of baseball. So check out the Locked On Astros as your first listen, but go check out the Locked On Now podcast. So guys, before we get going again, why don't you go and give a shout out to your moms out there?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to my mom. I know she's watching right now. She watches just about every one of our shows. Mom, I love you. Without you, obviously, I wouldn't be here. You're kind of a major part of the deal. But all growing up, you have supported me from baseball, from when I went into the ministry, now podcasting. You've always supported me wholeheartedly. So I appreciate you, Mom. My stepmom, Betty, all the women in my life that are mothers, my mother-in-law, who's like the best mother-in-law in the world, Lisa, and, my sister, who's the mother of 5 kids. She does a great job raising them. And anyone I know that is a friend that I look to as a friend or like a sister, happy Mother's Day to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, on my end, I'll keep it short, but I guess I've been working on a blog that's going to be coming out in about 2 weeks because we're coming up on a year since I got hired by Barstool, and I'm quoting a lot of what I put in the blog, but I don't know about you guys. I think a lot of people share this sentiment. There's few things as awkward as seeing your parents cry, right? It always kind of feels weird, but I remember when I got hired by Barstool and the moment hit and Dave was tweeting about it. And I was just kind of downstairs, just like processing the whole thing. And she came downstairs and I remember she wrapped her arms around me and she started crying. And obviously when you see that, you start crying. And the way she said, like, I know this is everything you ever wanted. And like, that's what it's like being a mom. You know what your kids want. You know what you're even. And so the journey I've had, it's been very topsy-turvy, up and down. But I think that's a reflection of knowing who your child is and knowing what he's fighting for. So I appreciate you. And obviously she's in Chicago hanging out with my brother right now. I actually heard my father at a Van Morrison concert, living it up right now. So I'll be seeing her tomorrow. And I got a card for her to let her know that I still made sure to celebrate Mother's Day for her. But thank you, Mom, as always. Yeah.
Also, Jackie Bregman threw out the first pitch, and this is, I think, the second year or in a row, or I know she's done it before. And on that game, that it seems like Alex Bregman always hits a home run when his mom throws out the first pitch. So, yeah, it's always a great day for not just the players to see their moms go out there, throw out the first pitch, but it's just a great day to go watch some baseball. And they wear the different hats out there. So happy Mother's Day to everybody. And so Alex Bregman hit that big home run. Didn't matter. No, the Aledmys Diaz home run, the Grand Slam kind of put it out of place. But what are your thoughts overall, switching to Tigers for a second? What's going on with the Tigers? Are they as bad as this 8-19 record?
It's a really good question. And I talk about this on my show tomorrow. Last year, when this team was 8-24, I just shuddered because I'm like, I think this might be who they are. This might be 110, 120 loss, like historically bad team. I'm not going to say they figured it out, but they ended up going, 77 and 85. And like, okay, it's a step in the right direction. The short answer is I do believe they're better than how they've played. The long form answer is it doesn't matter, because this team hit the reset button almost 5 calendar years ago. And this was the year that people promised this is going to be different. This is going to be a team. And I don't think there's any fan out there who said this is a World Series team. This is a team that's going to win the Central. This is a team that's, going to be a 90-plus win team. But I think collectively everyone said this is the ascension year, very similar to what you guys had in 2015, where you had those several years. Actually, it was a long time, but really under Lou now, you had those several years of tanking and being awful. And all of a sudden, hey, you pulled off this 85 wins or 86 win season. You're in the playoffs, fighting against the Royals in the ALDS. I think people believe this year would kind of be that ascension year. They haven't gotten it. I do believe they're better than how they've played, but just stating facts, that's a tough sell. This team offensively is going through a stretch that I've never seen, and I've seen some bad baseball over the last several years. I mean, really, this was a sweep, right? Obviously, you guys win 4 games in a row. If the Tigers collect, I don't know, 2 more big hits, we're talking about a 2-2 series, or even the Tigers win. I mean, they put it up on the broadcast on Bally Sports Detroit. They were 1 for 30 with runners in scoring position in this series. If they were 3 for 30, we're talking about a completely different series. So I do think they're better than how they've played, but this deep into the rebuild, a lot of people are going to have a tough time buying that. Do I think that water finds its level at some point? I do. I like Baez. I like Meadows. I like Jamer. Like, I do think there's good ball players here, but it's an 8-19 start. And if not for the Cincinnati Reds, you'd be the worst team in baseball right now. So it's a really tough sell for a fan base that's been so honest and so patient over the last 5-6 years.
And one of the things that I noticed you said after the game today on your post-game reaction, which I still watch, I literally watch those every day. So even if I'm not a Detroit fan, I know what's going on, because you break down in 2 minutes and 20 seconds so succinctly a baseball game. It's a talent that's unmatched.
Thank you.
But you said today, like, you wish AJ Hinch had a little bit more fire, had a little bit more, I guess, disdain for the ball club, that he was more upset, because I mean, AJ Hinch is a nice guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But you think he needs to be a little bit more direct, like Akil Baddoo. Where is the last year guy? Like, what are you doing? And it looks like in the field too. I think, well, I know baseball is a mental game, and it looks fielding wise, hitting wise. The pitchers, when Fulmer was missing the strike zone as bad as he was missing it, and not just him, every pitcher, something is mental blocking right now, and someone's got to get in their grill. I guess wake them up.
Yeah, I think that, and I brought up EJ, and somebody, and forgive me, I don't know Twitter, that said AJ is an in-clubhouse manager, which I think is true. I think behind closed doors, AJ is way more raw and way more open than he plays the game with the media. And of course, hey, that's the way to go. And he's been very successful. I guess the point I was trying to make with that is, like, as a fan, you want to see the team acknowledge, like, this is not right. This is completely unacceptable. I remember, like, in Tigers lore, people talk about this all the time, where in 2006, Jim Leyland was a first-year manager, and they got off to a nice little start, and then they stumbled kind of in late April, early May. And Leland had this whole rant after the game being like, if this is how things are going to be here, then I'm not a fan of this. Like, this is not the way I want things to go. And of course, that team ends up going to the World Series, and you had this amazing run. But I think we just want to see a moment of, just shaking us out of apathy here. And people talk about managers all the time. And like, AJ can't suit up. He can't field a ball. He can't locate a pitch. I mean, he's got to sit there and watch and just put out the best roster that he can. But no, I'm with you. I think that right now, when you're going through it as a team, and this team has gone through it, you get to a point where there's almost a mental block in regards to just winning a game, where I think that when things get tight, you saw it on Saturday, where, and I brought it up in my post-game video, where Erod was brilliant, and you go to Fulmer, who's been dynamite the last 2 years, and he struggles. There does come a point where it's almost like you forget what it feels like to win, to do that workman, like, hey, we went 1, 2, 3 in the 8th, 1, 2, 3 in the 9th. Now we're winning. You win one and you can break through that and you get on a little bit of a winning streak. All that goes away. You saw it with us last season. So, I mean, I think there is a mental block. I also think that, I mean, in fairness to Houston, they are a superior team. Like, even before the season started and I knew, and before I knew what the injuries were going to look like going on the road against Houston for a 4-game set, it's not easy. But what makes this so frustrating is you feel like they're a hit here or there away from winning. They're an out here or there away from taking a series. And it's led to a lot of frustration. And people are, very sad around here based on what we've watched where, do I think they're better than how they've played 100%. But when you're 8-19 through 27 games and you're going to have another uphill battle to climb, it's hard to get really excited again. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at last year, I believe that I think the Tigers played the Astros really well. And
yeah, that's what's weird. Early in the season, we swept them on the road out of nowhere. I remember I was on your show.
Yeah.
And we had just got swept by the A's. And you asked me how the series was going to go. And I'm like, dude, we're screwed. There's no way we can't win a game right now. And for whatever reason, that was, it was either game 1 or 2 of that series. Mize had like his first great start. So he got his first win actually. And like Badu went nuts. Baseball works in weird ways. And I'm not going to give credit to the Tigers, but I will say if they're going to make some sort of adjustment here, the next 2 series are against Oakland and Baltimore. If you're not winning those series, like we are talking about, like maybe this is just going to be a last place team because both those teams are pitiful. But yeah, no, weirdly we played you guys really tough last year, and even back at Comerica, I think we won 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4. But yeah, they played. I think part of that was a little bit of AJ trying to get the karma back. Yeah.
So, but if you look at what the Astros did, this is the first time they swept a 7-game homestand in 35 years. So this is like almost historical what they've done. And during this streak, the pitchers have they've allowed 37 hits, 8 runs, 13 walks. They struck out 54 batters in 63 innings, allowing a 1.0 ERA, a 0.79 WHIP, and a opponent's batting average of 271. The starters themselves, they allowed a 1.05 ERA. The bullpen, a 0.89 ERA. So over this stretch, it's been about the pitching. The offense has done a little bit, just enough. And this team is starting to remind me of what the Mariners did last year with such I mean, not that they're the Mariners, but that how they kept on winning those 1-run games. And just recently, it seems like they've been winning a lot of those 1-run games. I know today was a 5-0 victory, but they're also limiting the offense a lot. But just today, getting that clutch hit. I know Aledmys Diaz left. They said Dusty Baker said that there's a lot of nagging injury and things that he's been dealing with. Nothing major, but it was more precautionary, the reason that Diaz left. And I know that Brett wants to discuss, well, why are you sitting a young shortstop in the first place?
Well, no, and I got those answers. I mean, I listened throughout the day, and they actually addressed that issue. They actually said that, they actually interviewed Joe Espada on the home feed, and they asked him about that. And he said, well, look, he is 24. He's a rookie. He's never played a 162 game season.
Right.
So he is all out. He's an all or nothing player. And we don't think him going all or nothing in as many games as he can is beneficial to us at the end of the season or to him. So we're trying to bring him along. He's still a rookie. And, my first thought was, well, maybe he hasn't had enough Built Bars, because see, here's the deal. Built Bars are the best tasting.
What a good segue, man. You're a true professional here.
Built Bars are the best tasting protein bar in the land. And let me tell you, Castellani, if you are grinding a 3rd or 4th podcast of the day and you're like, man, I need some chocolate, I need a candy bar, but you don't want to eat the candy bar because it's a lot like being a like a Rangers fan. It's just a terrible experience. You go grab a Built Bar. Why? Because they have these things called Built Puffs. Now, I don't know in Detroit if y'all have churros, but if you don't, they have a Built Puff called a churro puff. And it is the only protein-infused marshmallow puff wrapped in 100% chocolate. The Built Bars themselves average 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. That's right. If you and the kids are going on a vacation, or you and your buddies are going to another ballpark, get a Built Bar, get a mixed box, throw them in your backpack, throw them in your suitcase, and take them with you. That's right. They're great. They give you energy. They keep me filled. And I have a fridge full of them. I can take you to my fridge right now and show you. H-Town Wheelhouse fridge is full of Built Bars. So
it really is.
now, I want you to go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your first order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And like the fans from our show that post on Twitter, they take Built Bars to Minute Maid. So check them out today.
Thoughts by Dusty.
All right, here's Dusty Baker on getting his 2004th career win, passing Bruce Bochy. They were tied for 11th all time, so now he's passed him. So this is what he had to say. That's pretty cool. It was going to come sooner or later. I'm glad it came sooner rather than later. Now I can quit keeping lineup cards. The next stop is 40 away or something. That's Thoughts by Dusty.
I love Dusty. You know, Chris, our favorite quote from him this year was his first day back at, I guess, spring training. He said, "This is the first time I've worn pants since November." And I'm like, this guy is audio gold.
You know what? You're right. You know what's weird about him is that I get tweets, but him and La Russa, I see the tweets of people who criticize them as managers, and they're not. Dusty is not as analytically minded as AJ
Right.
Hinch. Right. I mean, but I've always defended him because everywhere he's gone, he wins. Chicago, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Washington. And I know he's had good teams and maybe he's fallen into good situations, but I think that when you're a manager, there's two key elements that you need to have. In the modern age, being analytically minded helps, being, according to the book and being able to kind of, play the percentages, but creating a culture is a weird thing. And I don't know of a whole lot of players who've come out of a Dusty Baker clubhouse and said, yeah, that guy stinks. I mean, it seems like he gets along with people. He doesn't really rock the boat. He's a bit of an old fashioned guy, but, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, the guy wins everywhere he goes. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think it's a interesting, but fun transition that you can go from an AJ Hinch to a Dusty Baker and not really skip a beat. So no, I've always rooted for him, to be honest with you. Yeah.
He also said, this is after Saturday's game, I believe, or this could be after today's game. He said, pitching is the name of the game. Guys are going deep into the games. Our bullpen wasn't stretched out too badly these last 7 games. I mean, that was the last of the 17 in a row. We've urged our guys to finish strong, not to think of the off day on Monday. So a lot of people are kind of talking about, well, why did you use Christian Javier in today's game? Isn't he? Aren't you could still be in the 6th man rotation? And I think the answer is yes, they are still in the 6-man rotation. But I think what they did here was they wanted to keep everybody in the 5-day rest period. And so what they did was the plan was to piggyback Christian Javier off Jake Odorizzi this whole time. So that's why they had Jake Odorizzi only pitch 5 innings. I think the plan was really to maybe have him go 6 innings and then have Javier go the last 3. But I think because of the struggles in the 4th inning, I think Dusty Baker he's not going to come out and say it, but he didn't want to give them another chance to maybe because he's having this success. This is a success that he hasn't had. And if you look at the first 3 starts, 9 innings, 9 earned runs, 16 hits, 7 walks, 5 strikeouts. The last 3 starts, 17 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, 6 hits, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts. He's lowered his ERA from 9 to 3.38. You don't want to tempt fate. And I think that Dusty Baker is just like, okay, we already have Christian Javier ready to piggyback. Let's just bring him in.
Well, plus in the next 22 days, you have 21 games. So, I mean, this is going to be the end of the 33 games and 34 day stretch that they have. So they will be getting plenty of rest. And, like I said earlier, I just like, I'm not used to this new way of thinking. Of course, maybe it happened growing up when I followed baseball and I wasn't like trying to be baseball savant guy and get all the numbers and all the analytics. Like, I don't remember Bill Doran and Craig Reynolds and all these guys resting, but maybe they did. And I was just my 13 or 14-year-old self wasn't paying that much attention. But when they explain to the people, I like when it's asked and they say, look, this is why we rested him and this is where we got him here. He said the night before, I'm going to rest Yuli on Sunday. Yuli has got to work on some things mechanically. I haven't lost faith in Yuli. He can still hit. Mm-hmm. He just needs some rest. Someone said they noticed that on the broadcast, they were watching, I don't know if it was from MLB Network or ESPN but they said that they noticed that Yuli last year was standing straight up in the box, and this year he's hunched over. And I'm wondering, I'm like, he has a new baby, holding the baby. I'm not lying. Like, I'm sitting here trying to think like real world stuff. This whole new baby thing could have an effect. I mean, these are real people, they have real lives back at home. And, I don't know, Yuli Gurriel to come out and do what he did last year at the age that he did.
Yeah.
And to come in lighter and more in shape. And everyone's like, oh, we need the fat Yuli back. We need the pizza and Coke, the pizza eating, Coke drinking Yuli back. We don't necessarily need that. I think right now it's a mental game for him because his swing is still the same. It's just mechanically he's got to change some things. Maybe his bat path is a little rough. But what do you think about Yuli? You think he comes out of it before midseason, Chris?
Yeah. When you guys brought in Yuli, I believe it was 16, right, when you signed him. Basically, the book that was out on him was this guy hits. And I have a friend of mine who has a interesting theory, which is I'm not giving up on a player till he has 2 consecutive bad years because guys struggle and guys go through injuries. This guy won a batting title last year. I mean, I'm not giving up on a guy, 27, 28 games into the season after that. I think that's actually been, in the grand scheme of things, a remarkably underrated pickup for you guys. Like we talk about Altuve and Bregman, and obviously even guys who aren't there, like Springer and Correa. But I mean, this is a guy who's hit pretty much everywhere, every season that he's been with you. Varying levels of success, but you put him 4th or 5th in that lineup, he's going to figure it out. I really do believe, and I think it's affected pitchers more, and we talk about it more with pitchers because of all the injuries. The truncated spring training, I think, really has had an impact on certain guys. And of course, and this is another tangent that I could go on with the baseball is no longer being juiced and all that nonsense, and which is very, very annoying. But like, he's a hitter. He's been a hitter his entire time in Houston. He's gonna be fine. I have very little concern unless you brought up in mechanics, unless there is some undisclosed injury issue, which has been a thing with some of these players. In fact, there's been multiple Tiger players who came to this Tyler Alexander being a prime example, came to spring training. A week into spring training is feeling something in his shoulder. These guys want to play. They want to go out there. They want to hit. They want to. It didn't tell the Tigers injury until a month into the season. They finally put him on the IL. So I don't know what the situation is, but I know I've watched this guy a lot over the last 6 years, and I've seen a lot of balls go over the fence. I've seen a lot of balls go onto the train tracks at Minute Maid. So it's going to be a long time before I start believing that he's kind of declining. I guess if there is one negative, you signed him late. I mean, how old? What was it? He was in his early 30s when you signed him, right?
Yeah, he was like, I believe he was 34, but he didn't come over here. There were multiple reasons. I think he was waiting on his brother. There were also some political ties with his family and the Castros, and getting out of Cuba is not as easy as just like you grew up in another country and you came to America. There are some political things there, and that's what I believe. Mm-hmm. So it was a multifaceted thing. But can you imagine if him and Ichiro could have both come over here when they were young? We would be talking about 2 of the greatest Major League Baseball players, like career wise. And I mean, Ichiro still had an amazing career, right?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
But I mean, he came over here later than what most guys come up. But if those 2 guys come up, you're talking about the biggest international stars, and may still be the biggest international stars to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he was 32 when he was signed by the
32. Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, ironically, he had a great spring training. He was like crushing the ball. And so that's kind of weird. But Also, this is what Dusty Baker had to say about Yuli. Yuli's going to hit. You don't just stop hitting. He's got to get back to work, make some mechanical changes. I might give him tomorrow off. That's what he said on Saturday, to work on some things and to clear his head. I've got full faith in Yuli. So,
yeah.
No, yeah. And, Jay just asked us this, and you just mentioned it. Do you guys buy into the dead ball idea this season? I'll tell you right now, straight up, something's up.
No, it's I'll stop you right. It's not an idea. It's fact. It's a thing. It's not. There have been other instances in the past in which there's been conspiracies regarding baseballs. Obviously, last year, the sticky substances. The balls are dead. And I'll do a segment on my show about this at some point. Essentially, what baseball's trying to do right now is prevent 3 true outcome baseball with walks, strikeouts, and home runs. They want balls being put in play, and they want guys to adjust. Now, I never had an issue with that, but I think that the more balls get put in play, the more action there is. So, no, the baseballs are dead right now, sadly.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up too, that every ballpark is using humidors now too. So that's definitely killing the impact.
But I don't get it. Like, I do get it, but I don't. Like, they're like, hey, let's grow the game. Let's make it more boring. Let's have less runs. You know what? I mean, I'm sorry. No offense to soccer fans, but this isn't soccer or football, whatever you call it, where you like, nice friendly. We end in a 0-0 tie. Let's have a shootout. No, this is a real game where we score runs. And you know what? I'm sorry, damn it. I want to see a lot of runs. I want to see a 13-11 balls to the wall. Like, I want to see a melee. I want to see an offense shut down. They score 11 runs. The closer shuts them down in the 9th, and they win with the walk-off 13-11. That's the kind of baseball I want. I mean, screw this,
No, I'm with you. And what's weird to me is, I never had any problem when the balls were juiced. I know it was weird seeing guys like with 700 career OPSs go for 20 home runs, but it never bothered me. And when you looked at pitchers' ERAs during that time, it wasn't like they were substantially higher. Like when you go back and look at the steroid era and the amount of inflated ERAs that guys had outside of Randy Johnson or Pedro Martinez, the elites, it never bothered me. I liked seeing home runs. I'm fine with strikeouts. So they just keep trying to manipulate games to be able to grow them. But in reality, I think that the system, for the most part, was working. But they've changed it back again. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at your OPSs of Tigers right now, Chris, and I'm a little worried.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm a little worried that your team may be using performance enhancers or something.
Yeah, man.
The highest one is Robbie Grossman with 691.
It's it's on like, and I like Robbie. And good ball player, but this is unlike anything. It's incredible ineptitude. And what's sad is I look at these guys and I think, I like him and Meadows and Baez, but just because one guy might be hitting, it seems like when you have one problem, another 2 or 3 problems arise. I mean, really, the number, and I tweeted out a few hours ago, they have hit 11 home runs on the season. Wow. I want to say that Anthony Rizzo and Aaron Judge combined have 18 between 2 players on one team. We're talking about a 26-man roster with 11 home runs. If you take out Jamer's home run that he hit off of Presley the other night, which was ultimately meaningless, they lost in the bottom half of that frame. I don't know if they hit a home run this week outside of that one. We could talk about, de-juiced baseballs, and I think that's a very reasonable discussion, but the name of the game nowadays is you draw walks and you get guys on base. And how do you drive those guys in? You hit home runs. You cannot win in the modern age of baseball going station to station, and they keep trying to do that. You saw it in Saturday's game. The Tigers had 11 hits on Saturday, and yet lost the ballgame, scored 2 runs. They had 1 hit with a runner on base. I'm sorry, 1 hit with a runner in scoring position. If this team wants to advance at all, the power is going to have to start coming.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The last game they won, the Astros won 3-2. I believe the Tigers had 10 or 11 hits. The Astros only had 4.
Right, and they won.
And it's like Jay says again. Jay's always got great comments. He said the new ball taught Jordan a big lesson the other night.
Off of Soto, yeah.
He felt like they said he had a towel over his head. They said he like felt terrible, and he actually said, "I disrespected the game." For a guy of his age and of his magnitude, I mean, if I could hit the ball with that much power, I don't know if I would be humble. You know what?
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't be humble. I would be an arrogant
You would
SOB.
not. I know
would
you,
be
Brett. You
arrogant. Let me tell you, I struggle with arrogance right now, and I'm nobody. So imagine if I was somebody. Oh my God, you wouldn't be able to stand me. It's like one of my kids asked me. They were like, "So if you're a Major League Baseball player, would you sign a ball for me?" I said, "If I was a Major League Baseball player, I wouldn't even know you, kid." And he started like, "Oh, that's messed up." I was like, "Well, I probably wouldn't, because I'd be like living in the, anyways." But that's the thing. I just want them to grow the game. I don't like the changes they're making to the game, and we can have that discussion some other time. But golly, the Astros are fighting through the difficulties. They had a team, their first team that went to the World Series when we got swept by the White Sox. What was the big strength? It was the pitching. And what was the big weakness? It was the lowest average hitting team that made a World Series in Major League history. If that team had this offense, the White Sox would have never sniffed a single win in that season. And this team, when they get going, don't sleep on us. I'm just telling you. I know the Dodgers are dangerous, but we've still been there, done that more than other teams.
100%.
Hey, Chris, to kind of close out the show, I know Brett and I will probably look at the series a little bit more in tomorrow's show, but the Astros and Twins are both 18-11 right now.
Yeah.
What do we have facing us and the Twins? Give us a little quick preview.
They got a deep lineup, and they got hitters pretty much all across the board, and beyond that, they got righties and they got lefties. It's a tough team to match up against because of the kind of the parity they have. Obviously it's been well documented that Correa's had his struggles, but I believe this guy might have had another injury today. I don't know if he'll be available, but like Byron Buxton is one of the weird players in baseball, because I believe in terms of overall talent at full health, he's one of maybe 4 guys in the sport capable of a 10-WAR season. They play a very sound brand of baseball. They play with a lot of confidence. I think that if there's one thing that should inspire confidence in the Astros, I'm not completely crazy about their starting pitching staff. With that said, guys like Ober and Joe Ryan have gone out so far this year, and they've looked pretty darn good. I think that they do a good job of churning out talent and developing through the system. Right now, they're in first place in the Central. I still don't believe, could be wrong, I still think the White Sox find a way to win this thing. I'd be very surprised. I know they've had injuries. I still think that's the most talented team in the division, but the Twins had a good offseason, and they found a way to reload and retool and rebuild very quickly, despite trading some of the pieces they traded away last year. I think this is actually going to be a very interesting series, not just for you guys, but kind of for Major League American League, when we're talking about who, especially the closer you get to Memorial Day, is kind of the first big checkpoint in which you say, all right, are we going this way or are we going this way? So I'm are you guys at home, or are you going to Minnesota?
Minnesota.
You're going to Minnesota. Okay. So yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know what the weather's like there. The Tigers had a rough time a few weeks ago, but that's not saying anything. But so yeah, no, it should be an intriguing series for sure.
And we don't have time for Castellani to do a pizza review right now, even though he is with Barstool. Thank you, Mr. Ott, for the for the toss there. Chris, we love having you on. I remember from the very first time that I interviewed you, when I was doing my own lowly podcast that probably 8 people listened to, but I was like, oh, cool, I got this guy, Chris Castellani. He's got like around 10,000 followers. Now you've got like 50-something thousand followers. You're like a freaking star. You were there, and we didn't get to talk about it, but you were there when Miguel Cabrera got his 3,000th hit.
Yes.
And so just, close out the show from your perspective. Is Miguel Cabrera the story for right now for the season? Spencer Torkelson, does he contend for the AL, Rookie of the Year?
Right now, I mean, the story, yes. I mean, that 3,000th hit is an incredible accomplishment, and something truly I don't think we're going to see for a long time. I don't know if there's a player currently in his 30s or something like that is going to reach that milestone. So, I mean, it's obviously an incredible personal accomplishment, I guess. And I ended tomorrow's show, my own show, talking about this. I think that when you look at the landscape of Detroit sports right now, there's a lot of cynicism and there's a lot of sadness. And trust me, I'm at the forefront of that cynicism. I mean, that's part of my brand. But what I really appreciate, and I obviously appreciate that, Brett, you remembering, our first interaction and being on the show. My hope with all of this is that when the day comes, buddy, I don't know when this is going to be, but when the day comes in which the Tigers are finally back in the postseason, when the Tigers are finally competing for the Central, that it becomes something that guys like you and the people at Locked On and the people that I've interacted with in New York and Chicago and Boston, that they can feel a sense of, happiness, because it's been a rough go of things, man. And you can try to be as optimistic as possible, but sometimes you got to face facts. And I'll just give a little preview here of tomorrow's show. I end by saying, like, one day we're going to look at this series, and this series was awful. We're going to look at this 1 for 30 with runners in scoring position 4-game stretch, and it's going to make the championships, playoff appearances, the division titles that much sweeter. That's the hope. And you just got to be able to hold out hope, because as I brought up earlier, you guys went through the same thing, man. I can't imagine when you guys lost, what was it, 111 games in 2013, that you said 9 years from now, I'm going to be doing a show talking about a team that's got 3 AL pennants, multiple division championships, and a World Series. It does get better. I don't know when it's going to be, but I know that moment's going to be there. And I hope I'm going to be able to celebrate it with a lot of people.
Yeah, and Chris, Brett, was this old when I realized that the 2012 first round number 1 and number 2 picks are on the same team. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that Correa and Buxton are on the same team. I mean, I knew it, but it didn't click until right now. So this is definitely going to be an interesting series. And this was, even though it was not the outcome you wanted, it was still a good series for the Astros. And for hopefully it's a way for the Tigers to say, okay, we need to
maybe it's better. A motivator.
Yes.
Hope we need something, man. So yeah, we're getting there. Hopefully. Yeah.
All right, Chris. Thank you for joining the show. Tell us once again where they can find you at
Castellani 2014 on Twitter. I don't know if people are listening to this podcast. That's at Castellani 2014. Support the stuff I put out there next week. And it will be a few weeks until it's released, but next week I'm going to be in New York for the Dozen Trivia Tournament competition. So I can't wait to see my coworkers in New York, and just follow us on those platforms, and follow Barstool. We're continuing to work our butts off and bring you all the best content possible. So I appreciate all your support, and thank you.
All right. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. My name's Eric Huysman, and that's Brett Chancey, and this is Chris Castellani. And thank you for listening to this podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to preview the Twin Series, and it's going to be a clash of the power hitters, and it'd be a return of Carlos Correa. Who knows if he's going to play in Tuesday's game, but they're hoping that he's going to play at some point during the series. So that's all we got. And thank you for tuning in. Go Astros.